Hi, I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. So, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I ran across this article and I thought, not only do we need to be thankful for our mentors, but we need to be cognizant of our disciples coming along. And I think we really have to. I had a conversation with someone on LinkedIn, an old friend, who's mentoring millennials, and I put that in my description, my byline or whatever. I had a really great experience the last 3 or 4 years with the guys at Lovesac, and I really enjoyed it. I thought they really enjoyed it, and we made a lot of money for Lovesac. So if you're young and you want to learn more about marketing, grab somebody. Find a guy with an old gray beard who's had a lot of success, and dollars to donuts, I'll bet he'll sit down with you and tell you what he can and help you along and stick with you. That's what they do. So I ran across this article, and it reminded me that most of us had mentors early in our career. And so I want to offer a toast and a Thanksgiving to the guys that helped me along the way, which were many. This isn't a complete list, but it's some of my best ones. I want to start with Don Davison. He was my Spanish teacher in high school, but he had a master's in philosophy, ended up getting a PhD, and taught out in the Southwest New Mexico. And I reached out to him about 5 years ago, and I told him that he was the most influential teacher that I ever had. And I think it meant a lot to him. And now I can't get a hold of him, and I'm a little concerned. So, Don, if you're out there, reach out to me on LinkedIn or somewhere. You know I'm easy to find. And Keith Yandel was my advisor in grad school and along the way. And Keith taught me a lot about thinking clearly. After I spent the summer writing my senior thesis out. I was out in New Jersey, so I used to go to the Princeton Library. And if you've seen A Beautiful Mind, that was, that wasn't patterned after me. But anyway, so Keith says, he calls me in after he's read it. He says, well, it's an interesting paper, but what do you think about this? Writes out a sentence. I said, I agree with that. He said, I agree with it too. He writes out another sentence. I said, yes, I think that's true too. And he puts a line and he says, therefore, and he writes another one out. And I just went like that. He said, doesn't that entail this? And it does. And he just destroyed my whole paper. So anyway, in a gentle way, he showed me the value of clear thought. I'd like to thank Judd Poling, who was one of my best friends in college and taught me about a relationship with God. I think that's maybe been the most important thing through my life. Pat Wiggy was president of Wisconsin Graphics in Okauchee, and he hired me on the spot from job service after I got out of grad school. I didn't even know how to go look for a job. So I went to job service. They sent me out to Wisconsin Graphics, and he hired me, and I learned that I could draw things that could actually be valuable. I never charged anybody for it, but I learned that there was such a thing as a graphic artist. I learned about printing and how printing works, and I sold printing pretty much door to door. Some days I'd make 30 calls. It'd slow me down if they asked me what I had. I want to thank Bob Bilby, who was a great Christian businessman, and he fired me, but he let me learn computers and telemarketing, telesales, and run all the marketing materials. So he was a great guy, and we're still friends today. Vic Hunter, also a friend. Vic was my great mentor in direct marketing. He taught me that you always test something. And I probably learned more from Vic about marketing than anybody else alive. So I want to reach out to Vic and say thank you very much for that. You should do more videos, Vic. You're really good at it. Also, Bob Meyer, and Bob had an ad agency, and he taught me about creative and the power that creative can have, which is often a lot more than you think, more than direct marketers think, that's for sure. Bob Stone, who was, a mentor in the sense of I'd stop at his house and have coffee. He was long retired, and we would talk about the internet and the definition of direct marketing. And I just, thought it was great that he would invite me in his home and we would do that. It was really great. Bob was a great guy. He invited me to teach down at UMKC, And Martin Bear, I want to thank for teaching me about lifetime value. I'm going too fast. I'm going to run out of things to say about everybody. But Martin was really upset with me because my class got rated the #1 at the direct marketing certification, and he knew I wasn't an academic in any sense of the word. So I'm looking over at the Periscope and it says say something, and I think, well, I'm saying something, but I realize that that's just the default, that it's making me it's making me nervous. Look, type something over there. I'm trying to be interactive. So Martin, thank you for teaching me about lifetime value and the value of a customer and knowing the key metrics that are sustainable. I'd like to thank Jack Miller. Jack came to one of my sessions at the catalog conference. It was funny because they put me up against Jules Sugarman and Les Wunderman. Les Wunderman was maybe one of the great ad agency guys. You know, these are both Hall of Famers. And Jules Sugarman was one of the funniest guys you'd ever hear speak. It was after lunch on the last day when everybody's bugged out. And, later I said, why the heck did you put me opposite those two guys? You know, we had like 20 people and, hundreds of or thousands of people at this conference. And there's only like 20 in my session, a huge room. But one of them was Jack Miller. So don't, if you ever have a small audience, don't underestimate the power of a small audience. And Jack sat out there amazed and said, well, can you try this? And what? I was doing one of the first, I was the very first one at the New York Hilton to ever use a computer in a presentation. They said, why would you want to do that? We got slide projectors. I said, we want to show people what happens. Anyway, they set me up with some monitors. So Jack sat out in the audience, and he would say, well, what if we mail more? What if we mail more prospects? What if we mail the house file more often? And we would work on it. And so then Jack had me and his accountant meet with him down at Quill, and we worked it out where we built a business case, a fictional company, and we were the #1 rated session at the Fall DMA the next fall. But Jack was just a great guy. He was tough, really tough, and he, thank you, and he was also just a good friend. I said, he was talking about retirement. I said, Jack, it'll take all the fun out of vacation. And he's laughing about his brothers each bought Rolls Royces, and he had a Jaguar, and he said that those Rollses, they were always in the shop. Anyway, I also want to thank John Worth. He was the guy who came up with the bathtub model. At least he doesn't remember coming up with it, but I'm gonna go a little longer because I'll chop up the middle. So John explained to me that on every if you rank the lists that you rent, or if you rank digital ads and their productivity, if you rank anything, it's basically the bell curve tipped on the side from best to worst. You'll have a few instances that are really great and a lot of them that are kind of ick. And he said, if you try to cut back to that high point, it won't work, because the results will still look like this when you end up mailing it. And he said, you got to raise the whole thing. That's a very, very, very profound lesson. I could thank Dick Cabela too. Dick Cabela said, I don't want to cut for more profit. I want to grow and have more profit. It was a very profound thing. Looks like I froze again. I really want to thank those guys. I want to thank those guys who took aside a crazy Len Schenker. He was another one who said, anybody can criticize, because I was going around criticizing everything that everybody was doing. He said, anybody can criticize. Why don't you build something? That was profound. That was life-changing. Thanks, Len Schenker. So I have a whole long list. I'm sure I have a lot longer list. Thanks, Keith, for goading me into this project. So have a happy Thanksgiving. I won't be on tomorrow, I hope. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and God bless us, everyone. Like and share.